All right. Welcome everyone to Rooted Health Hub's first time online interactive art class, Van Gogh for it, with Tina, our Rooted Health Hub featured artist, original Tina. So Tina is an abstract artist working with all paint mediums. Oil on canvas happens to be her favorite, and she's going to lead us today in an art adventure of color, texture, and inspire us to create our own original works of art. And after this, you can learn more about Tina and her art at rootedhealthhub.com and explore her gallery and book future classes. All right, Tina, turning it over to you.
All right. Well, if you're joining the class, then you know that there was a list of supplies available, and you can either watch and paint along, or just watch and then paint later. So what we're starting with, obviously, is just a blank canvas. Subject matter today is going to be this lovely little mermaid, and we're using still life today. And the purpose of that is to help sort of ease our way into the use of color with the 7 elements of design. So I've already sent the photo that I will be using as a reference photo for the painting. And then, of course, during the rest of the time finishing the painting, because we won't be able to finish it today in 45 minutes or in an hour. So just know, if you want to paint this, you can just request the photo reference and paint right along. So starting with the blank canvas, the first thing you want to get ready whenever you're starting to paint and you've got an idea and a concept down is the colors you want to use, and you want to have different values. So what I've got here is some oil paint sheets, and these work as a palette. It just makes it easier for cleanup because I'm a pretty lazy artist when it comes to cleanup, and I will show you what I mean by showing you my palettes. This is not good. You should always clean your palettes after using them, unless you plan on using it right away the next day. And at that point, you can cover it up, because if not, you get dried paint on there. So having these little plastic palettes is really nice and handy. I save those for acrylic paint, and I use these oil pads for oil paint. And here's what that looks like. It's just a paper palette. You can get it at any craft store, Walmart. So what we're starting with today is I've chosen green, obviously, for the color, because the mermaid is green. You can choose whatever color you want. The green that I chose was, if I can find it. I can't find it. It's Viridian. So Viridian is here, and I've got black and lamp. This is just lamp black. Your paint kits should have black in it. If it does not, let me know, and I'll teach you how to make black. And then white. And so what I've done, and you guys can do this while we're talking, since I've already prepared ahead of time. If you have paint, you can make different values of that. So I've made 2 light colors of the green, and then 2 darker colors of the green. Actually, these are the 2 darker, and this is the middle. And then we also have a very light one. So you're going to have white, the lightest green, and then your 2 values after that. Then black, the blackest green, and then 2 values after that. And so what this is going to teach you is we're going to paint based off of light on the mermaid. This is going to teach you how to incorporate your darker values and your lighter values. So whenever you do set out to paint something, you always want to get your paint ready, get it mixed. When you're using oil paint, you can mix your paint a little bit better than if you're using acrylic, because acrylic paint, there are so many options and so many colors, you may not even have to mix any. But if you end up doing any kind of mixture of paint with acrylic, I recommend keeping track of what you've used to mix it. And that's just because you want to get the same color every single time. So taking notes while you're mixing colors is also helpful. And is anybody mixing paint right now? Anybody getting ready?
I am getting it. Oh, this reminds me. Can you please take pictures of your before art station? And then we'll do after or during and after pictures. So if everyone could take a picture of what their palette or where they're mixing, whatever you're mixing on before and after. So I'm just filling up, Tina, I'm just filling up these. Thank you, by the way, Tina, for your recommendation on supplies. And that's also up on rootedhealthhub.com. There's a list of supplies that Tina recommended, and I was able just to hop on Amazon and grab a whole kit, which was nice, which has black, it has an emerald green and a viridian green. So I'm just putting all these colors in a little spot on this palette, leaving a few where I can mix. Now, is it okay to like, do I need a paintbrush for each color? Can I mix with just one? Like, how do I mix them, Tina? How am I mixing?
I mixed them with the palette knife.
Okay.
So you get your palette knife, and what I did is you have the white and the black and the green here. So green will infiltrate anything except for black. Black will take over. So what you're going to want to do is I took green and I made 2 swatches over here and then 1 swatch over here.
Gotcha.
And then I took the white and I mixed in a
Okay.
certain amount with one and then with the other, just to get the 2 different values.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I'm tracking now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So from here, after we get our values, we're going to want to look at our photo reference or our inspiration. If it's in front of you, and you're going to want to see what the area around is that you look like, how far in you want to zoom into the photo itself. You can zoom in all the way. You can zoom back. Is there any way to post the photo reference in the Zoom class?
Let me check. I'll work on.
Okay. Okay, so for the sake of time, we'll jump from mixing values, and if you have questions about that, I want you to reach out. And then what I'm gonna do is start putting paint on the canvas so you guys see what that's like. And of course, you want your supplies all ready. So this is the paint we have here. I've got my solvent here. Got solvent here. And that's just the odorless mineral spirits, because I live in an apartment, and if you live in a small space that you don't have a lot of ventilation, then you want odorless. So here's what that looks like. And it's $8 to $9 at Walmart. It might be cheaper somewhere else, maybe Home Depot or Lowe's, but get the odorless stuff. And then of course I have Gogh. You can get linseed oil, but it's just an oil base that you use to mix and paint and thin out the paint so that you can make it malleable on your canvas. If you don't have that stuff, don't worry. You can just use your paint, and then it'll just be a really thick painting. So it's not a big deal. That just means you have to use more paint. And then today, if you don't have any solvent to clean your brushes, you can just wipe them clean on an old t-shirt, a paper towel, or a shop rag, and then wash them with dish soap, like Dawn dish soap, and that'll clean your brushes out. Just keep in mind, when it's oil paint, you want to use some kind of soap to keep the brushes clean, and then to lay them flat so that they dry without eating away the glue that connects the wooden brush handle to the brush head. Because when you're using solvent and continuously getting a brush wet, it tends to eat away the glue that secures your brush to the stick. And if that happens, just get some wood glue and put it back together, especially if it's your favorite brush. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in here. If I have my big brush, I don't have it on me, but I did. This is part of getting your supplies ready, unless it's in my pocket.
All right, Tina, I'm not having any luck with figuring out this whole posting a picture thing, but I'll keep trying every now and then.
That's okay.
To figure this out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out after if you want to continue to join in on Paint Festives. So if you don't have the solvent or the Gogh or linseed oil or whatever medium you were going to use to thin your paint, and you just have paint with brushes and canvas, that's fine, like I said. Then you're just going to go in with your brush and get a little bit of paint on it and start mixing. Now what we're doing, because we're not painting the mermaid yet, what we're going to start with is the background. And the background in the photo is her on this white curtain. So the background is white. Nothing is ever truly white. You have to think of light reflecting on it and everything. Light, shadows, reflection from the mermaid. So in my mind, she's green fabric is white with the light on it, it's going to reflect some shadows and some light that are not all white. So I'm going to go with green. So I'm going to go ahead and dip my brush after I've already dipped it in the solvent to get it wet. I'm going to dip it in the Gogh and then put it in the white. And this white, I'm going to go into my lightest green that I've made and snag some of that color. And I'm just going to put that on the canvas. And this is going to be my background. And the mixture of the Gogh and the solvent is going to allow for me to move the paint pretty freely. Like I said, if you don't have that and your paint is just straight oil paint that's dry, you're just going to use a lot more, but you can still do the same concept. You're not going to have a really wet canvas. You're going to have a thick, sticky canvas. And if you didn't get an easel, it's not a big deal. Tabletop easels are available. Those are about $20 a piece at Michael's. So on Amazon, it might be a little bit cheaper. Wooden, metal, doesn't matter. Wooden ones don't make as much noise if you go in public. They just tend to draw a lot of attention if you do. So I'm gonna keep going in with this white and this green. Now, for me, in my painting, she's gonna live kind of like right here in this area. And I'm just gonna mark out that. Well, block it out, I guess you could say. Then I'm gonna keep adding this light white green. It almost looks like seafoam right now. And I'm gonna keep applying this and making the background. And I always like to try to do this to block out the image that I want in there. And the purpose of that is so that I don't lose focus on the background. Because if I see that there's empty space, I'm like always thinking about what I'm going to put there. And if I've already got something there, then it's out of sight, out of mind for my brain. I've just added a little bit more white to my palette. I'm going to keep adding that on here. Just keep mixing it in. And this being the first class where we're painting the same thing, I do want everybody to take progress pictures because we won't finish this in an hour. But we're going to get a good portion of the main concept on here, which is like a painting by light.
Progress. Man, that is a beautiful color, Tina.
It worked out really nicely. And all I did was I took, because white tends to take over whatever you add it to, I just took a smidge of that Viridian, just a tiny, tiny bit, and made the lightest color that I possibly could with it. I have a tendency to be heavy-handed, so I just want to make sure to get the whole canvas covered. And if you're using Gogh like I am right now, it has a sheen to it. So just make sure you cover your whole canvas. And we will go back over this later if you want to add like shadows and stuff in the fabric, which is a really good way to kind of get used to painting realistic images, photos, items, whatever you want to use, but we're using still life. So, and you may not think that like this is a lot of color on here, but in the right light, you'll see it is a lot. And I accidentally marked on here with a pen, so I got to cover that up somehow. We'll get there. All right. So I've got my background in there. I'm just going to rinse my brush out. All right. So now with the photo reference everybody has, I'll show you Miss Mermaid. Let's see. Let's get I'll send that to Jared. Maybe he can post it. So I'll show you real fast. She's right here. Here. She's so tiny. But in the photo, you can see all her color, all the dark spots. If I hold up like something white behind it, like here. No, let's just hold up this behind her. You can kind of see all the different greens, which is why we have all these different values. And so what we're going to do, if you guys have your photo reference pulled up, we'll start painting the shadows on her. And let's see, did that just shut my camera off? Just want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Okay. Here we go. All right, so we'll start with the shadows. I'm going to start with a thinner brush like this. And this is just a round level 1 brush. It's the thin brush. I'm going to dip it in my solvent. Then I'm going to go in here with one of my darker values, one of my darkest values. I've got 2. So I'm going to go with the one that's got the most green on it. I'm going to really kind of get it thinned out with the solvent. And we just want a basic shape of her in there on that space. And it doesn't have to be perfect because all we're doing is we're starting with the shadows, okay? And if you notice how I'm holding my brush, it's like this. I'm holding it sideways with my pointer finger and my thumb. And the purpose of that is so that I'm not writing like this. Because if you notice when we write like this, we're using all this tension and effort, and you want to be free with your motion and the movement of the brush. And so you hold it like this so that there's more freedom and the movement of the brush, I guess. All right, so I'm gonna go in there with the basic shape of the mermaid. I've got her sitting right here so I can kind of see. We want her right there. So we're gonna start with her head, okay? We're just gonna make her head a little round on top, and then she comes down. And it's just the basic form right now. And we know that she's got some space here where she's kind of sitting. And mermaids don't have knees, so we're gonna whip her tail around here. And I'm leaving just a little bit of space that I know is there where she would be sitting on her tail end. Get it? And then I'm gonna go right here. I just added a little bit more paint to my brush. And we're gonna make kind of what her tail would look like. And these are just basic shapes, nothing perfect. We're just getting basic shapes out here. Then we're going to come down. She's swinging right across back in here. And then you got to think of like perception. So like if you're having issues putting her on the canvas, you can break her up into shapes, okay? This is one of the 7 elements of design is shape. So if you're looking at her, you see that this is like a weird triangle, right? So just try to make a weird triangle. And then you see this right here is kind of a V shape almost. So you're gonna make like a V shape, okay? And once you start breaking it down like that, where you're breaking it down into shape, so you can just get it on the canvas, then when we do that, then we can start adding light colors for the lighter parts and darker colors for the darker parts, and then the shape or the item relic for painting the mermaid. She'll eventually come to life. You just have to be patient with it and understand that as you're working this, A, it's not going to be perfect. B, it's not done till it's done. And C, you're just beginning. You're just starting out. So like her torso here is kind of long. So we'll make like this. And then she's got her vavooms right here. So we'll just kind of make her body here like this. And then with that same dark color is all I'm using right now just to get shape on here. I've already got her arm set here. So we're going to go like that for the arm, which means there's a big space right here. And then we're just going to We're gonna try to fill some of this in. So you see, it looks pretty generic. You can't even tell what it is. It don't look like nothing. It looks like
Well,
a J. Looks like a J.
I think your operational definition of nothing compared to my definition of nothing is different at this point, but I'm gonna take what you say and I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm rolling with it.
Roll with it. So then what we're gonna do with the awkward shape that we have on here now that we don't know really what to do is she looks like a one-dimensional like J. Looks like a J to me. So what we're gonna do, since we got the basic form on there and we got a reference picture, right? We're gonna start adding the lighter colors to kind of help bring it to life. So I'm gonna go in with my second lightest value here. And in the photo, you can see where she's got light, probably highlights on her face, on her arm, and on all the high points on the actual object. So I'm just gonna kind of guess and put these values, and I'm not putting them in any particular like shape. I'm just filling in with this color where I see it all over her. So you take that second lightest color and you just put it where you see it. And you have to determine, based on the item you're looking at or the photo reference you're looking at, you have to determine where that color goes for you. No one person can tell you that. And if you don't think it looks good, leave it alone and keep working it. That's a rule. You have to leave it alone and keep working it, okay? So like I can tell on her chest, just on the item itself, she's the same color there as she is on the side and down here. And this is pretty much just called color blocking. So I'm just laying these colors down where I see them, because we're going to go in and we'll add and fine tooth comb these colors and blend them and add highlights and shadows. So give yourself grace. Understand it's not going to look exactly how you want it to look right when you want it to look like it's supposed to, okay? So just expect it to be kind of garbage at first.
Okay, so I just want to share what's happening for me
Okay.
in my artistic journey right now. So in my mind, I've already told myself to just let go and that this is going to be an interpretive piece that people are going to have to just use their imagination and creativity. Okay.
Right.
And this is a safe space to share art, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I just want to preface with I did not bring all the proper supplies. So I'm not working. So working with just oil paint itself is the paint is not moving as elegantly across the canvas as Anyway, all that being said, I'm so proud of myself. I'm here. I'm doing it. But this is what we're working with, Tina.
And I love it.
It looks like, I don't know, maybe a musical note. So I don't know, but this is what we're working with. So just
it could be as abstract or as realistic as you want it to be. The one thing we have to accept is that it's going to turn out.
It's beautiful. It's a work of art. I'm gonna start, but I am gonna layer my colors. I'm going with it. I'm going with it.
If you're working with a thicker paint, you're just gonna have to use a lot more paint. So what you could do if you didn't want to use your brush is you could use your palette knife and actually lay the paint on very thickly. And then when you do get your other supplies, you can go back in with your brush and thin it out or wipe it clean and start over, whatever you want. So we're just going to continue to color block and put dark colors in where dark colors go, light colors in where light colors go. If you see, I made her like a weird smiley face. Like, I really don't know what's happening there. But she's like voguing over here. She's like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm on the beach. She's all green. She's like, I'm stuck here for life. They've made a statue out of me. Now I'm stuck here. Everybody to come and take a picture with. And if you have issues with the photo reference, with it looking like you want it to, you know what I do? And this is something I've learned about myself as an artist. I turn my painting upside down. Can't necessarily turn her upside down. Well, maybe I can. So she's upside down now. So I'm just gonna use, because all my brain sees is shape and color. So if I do that, I don't see mermaid. I don't. I see something really, really weird now.
So you remember when you said that when you use black, like black takes over everything?
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm experiencing that firsthand. Thank you for that tip, and that's what I'm experiencing. But yeah, so thank you for that. So I look forward to the layering process of what happens. But yeah,
So
that was
very
a solid
invasive.
tip. Solid tip, Tina.
Yeah, they're very invasive colors. That you want to use them to make your, your hues and your different values, but you want to be able to control that. And if you lose control of it, guess what? You can start over. You can do the next one. You can wipe your slate clean. You can turn your painting upside down. Do whatever it is you have to do. But definitely layering is going to come into effect whenever you're trying to have this illusion of like, this is an actual 3D object that I'm attempting to paint, you know? So having some sort of liquid there that's going to help. And if you don't have like linseed oil or galkit, or I think there's other types of oils you can get to help thin out oil paint and use it, then I would just go ahead and recommend getting it just a little bit, because they are a little bit pricey for the amount that you get. But I would go ahead and get it and just practice layering. I'm gonna turn her sideways. You can do pretty much anything you need to kind of get your brain to recognize the form if you're having issues with that. With me, sometimes what I have to do is, because I overwork a painting mostly, is my biggest issue. I'll have to let it sit and be and try to figure out exactly the shape that I'm making and what I'm doing, because sometimes I just overwork it. So right now, that's what I've got going on. And if you notice, I saved the circle space. There's still a little bit of canvas that hasn't been touched. What we're going to do is leave that alone, so that when we get closer to a point of finishing her, we can blend around her and blend her into her surroundings. Does anybody have any questions right now as to how to lay the paint? How is it going with yours, Paulette, if you've got paint going?
I have not started yet.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for Lucas, actually.
Thank you. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, but as soon as I get back, I am gonna start on it, and then if Tiffany can send me the recording, then I can kind of go back to the beginning and start.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can always reach out.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So Paulette, yeah, I would definitely having all the supplies that helps. So check on that.
Yeah, I'll have to get some. I don't have everything either, so.
Yeah, so I'm just diving in without it. So yeah, that's good. But yeah, and I like that this art set that Tina recommended came with a couple of canvases. So I'm excited about that, so that I can watch this video. Like you, I think too, I'm gonna do this one and I'm gonna finish this one, but I also want a chance to as I get better and I have the supplies to try it again. So this has a couple canvases, but yeah, we could go back and watch the video together and share
Yeah.
experience.
Yes, I actually do see that mermaid in there, Tiffany. I know you don't see it right now, but I see it.
Listen, it's getting worse. It's getting worse, but it's better. It's worse, but it's
Let's see.
all right.
I bet it's not getting worse. I bet it's taking shape into the mermaid it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. All right.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is, if you ever get to a point in the painting where you have to let it dry and you're just impatient, want to keep working, you can add little stylistic items to the background, because we're not doing much with the background. We're just kind of laying it. all I've done is I've gone in with that white because I had that blue pen marking I had to cover up. And I'm just adding brighter points of white. So it's just pure white paint with nothing thinning it. And the purpose of that is to give it more texture. And what texture gives a painting is a little bit more depth. And since we have this really pretty seafoam green on the background, you can see the white really well. And if you go in with different brushes and different brush strokes, you're really going to add a lot of texture into your painting. I particularly like this one brush. It's a really thin round brush. It's useful for a lot of things. With oil paint, it's really useful for covering an expansion of almost a 1-inch area. If you lay it sideways and pull, it's a really nice brush to use for that painting method in particular. And I use that to like make thicker line or to fill in points on a painting that need like a nice even feel to it. So, but this brush is one of my favorites. So I'm gonna use it just to kind of add that thicker white paint, just to kind of stylize it while this is drying a little bit. Tiffany, do you have any questions for yours? Any questions about how to use just the thick paint without any of the thinner or the solvent? Because there's a multitude of ways to do it. And like I said, if you have a palette knife and it's, let's see, this is a really small palette knife. See how little that one is?
I think for me, I would benefit from getting a pencil at the beginning. Like, kind of like you said with pen and like in your classes beforehand, how you drew something on the canvas
Right.
slightly beforehand. I think I would benefit from that because the shape that I hold in my head is not the shape that ends up on this canvas. So
Right.
so I think for me that's a good like, okay, I need to like get something on here. But I also at the same point this is still very relaxing. There's something very relaxing about like watching you paint and just going with it and knowing that like mine's not going to look like yours. It may not be interpreted as a mermaid, but I don't know, I'm still enjoying it. So,
Well, that's good. I mean, that's always a plus whenever you know that the outcome isn't supposed to be. We have matching mermaid paintings now because we're both Bob Ross technical skill level of painting. So we used our brush and made a happy little mermaid. Like that's not how these things usually turn out. And what I like about like classes like this or like the Van going for it is that everybody's perception is different, and you can see that whenever people paint the same thing. And that is probably the coolest part about this whole concept of Van going and making classes where people paint together is because when you get a huge group of people that are just completely different and they're painting the same thing, you can see their perspective on the item or the still life or whatever the scenery is that they're painting, and you can see just how different they are and what people focus on, what they think needs to be perfect, how they see a painting being perfect kind of thing. So for me, that's one of the biggest enjoyments of doing this and like getting people together to paint, because I learn every single day more and more about painting. I don't know everything there is to know. I learn all the time. But what I do know is that if people want to tap into painting, they can definitely do it. You don't have to be a Bob Ross or a Van Gogh or a Picasso to paint. You just have to find the time and put forth the effort, because it's a learned skill. If the more you practice, the more you do, the more you're going to get better at it. So for me, I never would have been able to paint anything that looked like that. That kind of looks like the little statue, but I would have never thought that previously. It's taken years to kind of get to that point, because every artist does struggle with like making sure that what they see in the painting and what they see whenever they are commissioned for work is actually what people get out of it. And I mean, you're either going to try to please people in that aspect, or you're going to just try to change their perspective and have them see it from how you see it. So it could go either way, really. But for the most part, I like these classes because I like to see how different it is. Tiffany, I want to see how different yours is. I want to see your little mermaid.
All right. Well, I will show the next step in my process here in a little while. So my son actually just joined me. Lil Hudson's here with me now. So I won't be turning my camera back on while he's sitting on my lap, but just to go along what you were saying, as I'm sitting here judging myself for what this is not, the first thing he said is, "Oh, how beautiful."
Aw,
So it's just along with what you were saying, it's just, oh yeah, it's beautiful. But I will definitely share an update here shortly.
all right. So all I'm doing is I'm still color blocking, guys. I'm still adding color. What I want to focus on now is, while that's drying, is this bottom area. And I've just rinsed my brush out, and I'm just going to spread this paint at the bottom. Because when you lay down oil paint and you go back in with solvent, what does that do to it? It picks it up so that you can move it again. So it's kind of like an eraser, if you think about it. It's not going to permanently erase it, but it's going to thin it to the point where you can work it. And all I'm doing is I'm blending it into this background here, so I don't lose that pigment or the color. I want to keep the color, but I'm making it where it's part of the painting now, because we have negative space and that we have to think about, which is the empty spaces. Like this right here is a negative space because she's got her arm like this. And then we have this space over here that I've accidentally filled in. We have to make negative space. So I'm gonna rinse my brush. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna remove some of this paint. So the solvent is like a little bit of an eraser. And if you ever get to where you're painting using more than just brushes, you can always go in with your rag. If you dip it in solvent, and you can do that and rub that spot. And then what I'm gonna do is just move it where I want it. Get this paint mix here. I'm gonna keep looking because she's got a dark part of her arm right here. That's gonna help make that shape for the arm, coming down and touching her tail. But what we don't see are the details of that arm. All we see is that it's in the shape of an arm. So it's implying that her arm is there. And then her tail comes like this dark space underneath her. I'm just gonna fill in with a darker green. And I'm gonna leave it like that so that when I go in later with white, I can blend that. But we don't want to lose the darkness, because that's what's gonna help define that the shape is in fact a 3D shape and not a 2D shape. And the way that you make items that are 3D in real life look that way on canvas is with light and darkness. So highlights, just like highlighter in makeup, highlights you put on the high points so that those high points stand out. It's the same with the painting. You put white or light green where the high points are on her face, where the light in that photo, the reference that we have, where the light is shining in that photo is where you're going to put your lightest green or your whitest white. You always want to save your highlights for later or for last, just because those are like finishing touches, I would say. So I always focus on shadow. I always focus on where the shadows are, where the darkest colors are. What does that look like? And then if you ever mess up, like say I got too much dark here, just go back in with a little bit of green and just keep adding, because all the colors are going to blend and they're going to make her look whole, whether you intended her to or not. Because that's the goal, is to use the color to make the shape appear, but not outright draw the shape. That's why for people like you, Tiffany, where you do have more of an analytical brain and you're able to find details in certain things, and so your brain tells you you need to draw this out before you can try to paint it. Perfectly normal thing. There's another method you can use, and I almost brought that method to this class today, but I was like, I'm gonna go in with just highlights and shadows, and we'll utilize those items to make an object stand out and appear 3D. So the method that I'm talking about is painting your entire canvas one color. So say we're using green, right? I would use the opposite of green or the complementary to green, which is red. So you paint your whole canvas red with, you get it nice and liquidy with the solvent, and you paint the whole thing red, and then you let it dry. And then you go back in with a rag, Q-tip, anything that's going to remove the paint, and it's called a reductive method. So you go in and with your rag or your Q-tip or even a clean paintbrush, and you take away the painting. So you're essentially drawing in your painting using the reductive method. So what you're going to do is you draw your shape and then you go in and you just wipe away. So that's one method you can look into if that helps you whenever you're drawing, is painting the whole canvas and then wipe away using your reductive method. And you can do that with paint.
You could still do that like as this goes, right? So like when I come back to
Absolutely.
this, that's still something you could do, right? Okay.
Right. So
Well,
I've used it. I've done the opposite. I've used it on her so far. Like when I put too much green and it needs to be lighter,
yeah.
I just remove. I go in and clean my brush and I remove it, and I'm constantly wiping that I'm picking up on my rag, and I clean the brush again, and I'll go back in again. So it's the same. It's the same concept. You're just not adding your white to your canvas yet as your highlight. You're using that reductive method.
Well, I think like when you were talking, as I was painting, like, because I remember you saying in one of your classes, and I've heard you say it multiple times, like your painting should always have like a little surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So like as you were talking about that method and using red with green, like this is where I'm at right now.
Ooh.
I kind of looked at like she's like, I don't know, kind of like it's a vessel, like she's holding something. So I put white in here, and then I was thinking adding some like red, maybe next time I visit, like a color right there in the middle of the white, a little surprise.
Yeah. I like how abstract she is. Yeah, because she doesn't have to be. She doesn't have to look like the mermaid. She can look like the J or the what did I say she looked like? An anchor. Mine looks like an anchor a little bit.
Whew, that was about a paint disaster. It's okay. Everything's okay, everyone. Everything's okay. I'm just learning how to hold art supplies. All right.
And the thing about oil paint, Tiffany, if you don't use all your color, you don't have to dispose of it. You can just cover it with saran wrap
Okay.
and go back in with it the next day. Oil paint takes forever to dry, so it's the same concept if you put it on your palette. But if you let it sit for weeks at a time like I do, then it just turns into a dried mess.
Well, I may have not shown up with all the supplies I was supposed to, but I did save all of my like little kitchen jars for my paintbrushes. So can I put like saran wrap maybe even over like this with the brush in it and keep it for like, can I do that?
You can if you have a lot of paint on that brush.
I do.
If you don't have a lot of paint on it, then it's probably just safer to wash it so that it doesn't deteriorate your brush itself.
All right, so just put my little Dawn soap until I can get my good stuff in there and do that.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Just because if it's a little bit of paint, you're going to be okay with going in and getting more of that out of that tube, as opposed to trying to salvage what you have on your brush, because you don't know, like, I don't know when you're going to get back to it, or like if it'll be soon or not.
And
But you can always get that in.
how long should, like, when will this be dry?
So if you're using just straight oil paint, you have to keep it in like a semi warm, dry place, like just in the house right now, because it's winter time and everybody's thermostat should be set at 72. Then you can just leave it inside as long as the kids aren't going to touch it, animals aren't going to touch it, because if it turns over and gets on stuff, you're going to get that everywhere. I keep mine on a high shelf when I'm drying them, or I keep them standing up against something like another painting. Yeah, you're definitely going to want to look at like where you would lay a painting to dry. When you're working with something like this, you can always leave it on your canvas or on your easel if you have a big easel like this. If you don't have like the space and you have to continuously be mobile with your painting, then definitely invest in one area up high where it can lay down and dry. But if you don't have that, then if you set it out in the sun, even in the wintertime, it'll dry a little faster. But Does anybody have any questions so far? Jared? I know you're not, I don't think you're painting, but. Definitely think that I like the color scheme we got going on, and you could have used any other color that you wanted, but the Viridian is really pretty. And then the different hues of that. I mean, green is my favorite color, so I went with green. I went with green. But yeah, my mermaid's looking a little wonky right now. I can't get this left side ever done right. As far as using the photo reference, I recommend turning it quite often because you're going to be able to see it from a different perspective, and that's going to help you get it to look how you want. If you're going with the more of the abstract look, which is awesome because you can make a mermaid without it actually looking like a mermaid, then I say just go with it and get the color on there, because it doesn't have to be like perfect. It just has to be a mermaid. So I'm going to try to fill in a little bit around her because I want her to be like she's kind of glowy-ish. She's just kind of illuminating. I really like these brush strokes I got going on. I'm going to keep those. And I'm just using another round brush to sort of blend and pull that green pigment. I think one really cool thing about painting in classes like this is that people don't really know what to expect, and they don't ever think that they're an artist, but then they surprise themselves by what they make, because even though it may not look like the mermaid you think it should look like, that painting is going to land how it should. It's going to become what it was meant to become. And I say live in those moments, because it could be unexpected, it could be something that you actually really like and continue to work on. Yeah, I kind of think that she's got a face from upside down, but if I turn her right side up, I don't see it. My brain is weird.
I think it looks good upside down. Well, I guess if she's a mermaid, she could be upside down swimming in the water, right?
She could be. And see, this brush is so nice, this little round one that I said was my favorite. Because I like the little wispies, right? Like, this is an inanimate object, it doesn't have wispies. But man, on this painting, she's going to be wispy as hell. I like it. And that's unintentional, you know what I'm saying? See, it's got to come to life. You got to go with your intuition on it. Which is, I think, a big part of the abstract paintings that I do. I just work intuitively. But even something like this that is like an actual object, I'm trying to make kind of look like an actual object. You can add little whimsical, look at that little wispy.
Yeah, I think if I'm gonna go for like drawing an object and try and really give myself a chance, maybe I'll start with like an orange or
An orange, a fruit, or like,
is it hard?
or like a glass object, like using something like that can still have those shadows and different values on. It's a really, really good tool to use for learning your color values and learning what it looks like when light hits it, because light hitting this thing straight on is different than light hitting it at an angle, and that's why having the same photo reference that we have and utilizing that together. I mean, we're gonna draw a mermaid that looks kind of the same, but they're not ever all gonna be the same. But starting with an orange or an apple, your orange is not gonna look like my orange, or vice versa. if that's how we want it to live. If you want it to look like a natural orange, then you just got to continue to practice with your values and your shape. I think value with painting anything that's circular, like the big blue ball that I painted, it took me weeks to get the value on that blue ball right, like weeks. Because on a round object like that with the light hitting it, you have to know when those values change from darker to lighter and back to darker based on where the light is hitting it. So in that particular painting, I didn't have a blue ball to reference with a light on it. Like I was imagining all of it. And when you're imagining all of that and where that light's hitting it, you really have to kind of think about what that looks like. So then you still have to pull up photo references of light on a cylinder, light on a ball, and what that looks like. And then you have to think about the angle of the light and make sure that the light's hitting it at the same angle every time you use the photo reference. Like you can't change the angle of the light in the painting. So value in using light and darkness, highlights and shadows is probably one of the biggest challenges of painting, but it's the most rewarding because you're going to be able to pull things out that you never thought you could just by using lights and darks, highlights and shadows. So this is what I got so far. She's swimming.
That was awesome. All right, this is what we're working with here.
Heck yeah.
I was playing around with the whole like lights on darks over here to see if I could get it to like from a dark to like light to come in. I don't know, so I'm gonna work with that a little bit.
I like it. I like the different greens. That's a good start right there.
I'm excited about, just like layering different shades of greens and seeing what it does. I'm excited about it.
Heck yeah.
I'm liking it now. I'm genuinely liking it now. This is good.
And keep turning it when you add more paint. Keep turning it if you want to.
No, I did that, but then it looks like a toupee this way. Like I feel like it's like a toupee. I don't know.
But
It looks so good.
If you do that though, and then you add other to it, then you turn it the way that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Then it might look something a little different. Like you added red line.
I'm gonna follow instructions. I'm gonna keep turning it, but I definitely quickly turned it back. But I will keep turning it.
I really like how it is right now. It's like the most abstract mermaid, but you can tell that she'd be swimming in some aquamarine water. I like it.
She kind of reminds me of E.T. a little bit. I'm not sure that like head. I don't know.
I could kind of see it. She looks like she's laying on her back with her tail up here, kind of like.
Yeah, like she's holding some. Yeah. No. Yeah.
It works. I like it.
Beautiful. She's beautiful.
All right. I think we have 5 minutes left. Did you have any other questions about how to utilize the paint on the canvas?
No, I'm really excited. I mean, for me, my goal was to show up and get something on the canvas. I mean, honestly, that was my goal. I don't know about everybody else. Like, I know you guys weren't painting during the class, but I think for me, the hardest part is just the getting started. And like you said, I'm very analytical. I like to have a plan. I like to have a strategy. But I think what art for me, what I'm finding out for myself, especially in this class, is that it's good for me to try to think differently, right? And come with a perspective of just being whimsical and seeing what happens and all of that. So I think for me, that's what I'm looking forward to, is coming back and saying, okay, now how can I layer? How can I practice the things that you told us and see that? And really just have the learning process itself, I don't know, is like why I'm here. So I'm excited about that.
That's good. It's definitely a place to let go and let the creativity and the intuitiveness of what you're wanting to see kind of come out, and not hold yourself, like you said, you wanted to go in with a pencil and draw it. That's what you would normally do. Don't do that. Try something different.
Yeah.
Try it differently and see what you come up with. And then after that, you can go back in and try it again at a later time with something else, and then draw and see which method you like better, which one you feel more free doing, and which one actually sort of hits that spot for you, that satisfactory spot of, I painted that and I really didn't think that I could, but I let loose and I trusted my instincts and this is what I got, instead of I overthought it and I was too worried about this, and then by that time I muddied up the color. So like,
well, and that's the thing too, is I'm really excited because now like I can book like a one-on-one session with you and be like, okay, this is what I want to do. How do I do it right here? Like, this is exactly like the space. Like, how do I like retract this color and add this color? Like, I can actually book a one-on-one session and say, okay, can you help me do those things that I want to do to my painting and practice that specific skill. So yeah, that I'm really excited about.
Well, that's
I
awesome.
think, yeah, I'm gonna book just to like just palette knife techniques with you. I think is like, can I book a one-on-one where we just like use palette knives the whole time? I think
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. That's a fun method too.
yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you, Tina. It's such an honor to have you as our Rooted Health Hub featured artist, and definitely will be looking to book with you in the future for myself. And I encourage everybody else. We'll get this recorded. We'll get it sent out to you so that you can start on your painting as well. I'll follow up with questions, book your one-on-one consultation. We'll get a date and a time for the second Van Gogh. Let's let Jared back in. Welcome back, Jared. Welcome back. We'll get another date and time set for the second Van Gogh for it. But in between that one, we'll see if we can do one-on-ones for follow-up for this painting. So we'll be in touch and we'll figure out the scheduling and all of that. But definitely want to thank all my fellow artists for showing up and embracing your creativity, and I encourage you to visit rootedhealthhub.com. And if there's a topic that you want to see, anything that you want to see on the website that you don't see, let us know. We'll get it up there. Continue to book with Tina, book your experiences. And yeah, thank you for Van Going for it with us. That's beautiful, Tina. Yeah, and if you could email rootedhealthhub.com, and there's a forum online you can email, reach out to us, let us know about your experience. You can also email us from the email that you got when you booked the class. Send us pictures of your paintings, send Tina pictures of your paintings so we can get them up there and share them with people, or not. We don't have to share them even if you show it to us. But yeah, we'd love to see what you're out there creating.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yay, it was great. I have to show this because Tina's the best, but look at this. It's so pretty. Look what she drew.
Oh, hold it up a
She
little higher.
painted this for
Hold it
me.
up. Hold it up a little higher. Higher to your left. Your left.
You guys see it?
More to your left.
Here, I'm just gonna switch the camera because.
Yes, please share. Please share.
Hold on. So you guys can see it.
It's a little bit blurry.
A little blurry.
Oh, there we go. It's working. Beautiful. Paulette, that's so beautiful.
I know.
Sharing, Tina, good job. You know what I absolutely love? I love that we all have our Tina originals with us for inspiration, because next to me is the painting that Tina painted. So
it's on your wall.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yes.
it's next to me as my inspiration. So yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have one next to me too, which is funny because
she has the original
right here.
Tina.
I've never seen that one before. That's beautiful. Man, I wish
That was
there's too many obstacles between me and my dining room, but that's where my first original lives too. So yeah, I love it. We're just surrounded by it. I love
that so much. All my friends and family have their paintings around them. Jared's got two of the biggest ones in his apartment, plus a bunch of little ones on his wall. So he's surrounded too.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, well, we'll keep sharing our inspirations from Tina, and we'll keep painting with Tina, and we'll be back. Tina, thank you so much.
Yay! Thank you.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.